One of my friends in the unit was a female. She was also married to a man. Long story short, we ended up having feelings for each other and fell into a relationship. And I committed adultery and ended up falling in love with this girl. While I was a Christian, I was so confused. I felt so guilty. I was so scared that I was going to burn in hell. But we were gone for 11 months. As time went on, I realized I'm like, this is what I want. This is who I am. I started looking at Christian stuff that was accepting of same-sex attraction and getting the kind of a different view. And I remember going home believing I can be a Christian and be gay. You know what I mean? I got deployed a year after I got married, to Afghanistan. I was gone for 11 months, and I actually went on that deployment. I took my Bible, my notebook, and I remember telling myself, "I'm gonna use this year to get really close to God. I'm gonna pray more. I'm gonna read the Word. I'm gonna do all this stuff to strengthen my relationship with God." And when I left, that's what I was doing. I mean, every night I would sit down, I'd get my quiet time, I'd pray, I'd study, I'd take notes. Um, then my one of my friends in the unit was a female. She was also married to a man. Long story short, we ended up having feelings for each other and fell into a relationship. And I committed adultery and ended up falling in love with this girl. While I was a Christian, I was so confused. I felt so guilty. I was so scared that I was going to burn in hell. But we were gone for 11 months. As time went on, I realized I'm like, this is what I want. This is who I am. I started looking at Christian stuff that was accepting of same-sex attraction and getting the kind of a different view. And I remember going home believing I can be a Christian and be gay.
Welcome again, and thank you for being here. And I think about all of these souls who once said, or who once believed that God is real, and then changed their minds and turned away and now say, oh, it was a mistake because it's all mythology and it's not real, and begin to call God all sorts of names. I've heard people say that those who were Christians, and I've heard more than one person testify this, that they've seen Christians in hell, and you are identified by a light on you because you once were in the light. You once walked in the light, so you still have the remnants of a light on you when you're in hell. And that is something that draws demons to the point of they hate you so much more because you were once on that path. You almost missed hell, but you're there because you decided to turn your back on the Most High God. Now, of course, when you decide that you want to sin and you want to remain in your sin, you will also want to search for a church that says, it's okay, that's okay here. You can come, you're welcome. Love is love. Anything goes here because Jesus is love. Jesus is love. People who like to water down the fact that Jesus came to this earth to die on the cross for sin, not just homosexuality, but for lies, for theft, for fornication, for adultery, all of the sins. He died so that we do not have to pay the price for that sin. But part of salvation comes with repentance and turning away and not embracing that sin and saying, well, this is who I am. If everyone decides to say, this is who I am, Then who what's going to be the purpose of Jesus' death if everyone decides to say, well, this is who I am, so I don't have to change. This is who we are. We are filthy. We are sinners, which is why he came. But if you want to embrace your sin, you will unfortunately have to go where sin leads. And sin leads to hell. Sin that's unrepented of leads to hell.
We went through so many different churches. The stuff that we seen, it would take another 8-hour interview for me to explain to you. You know, we started in this church. We ended up actually leaving. It became very controlling. I realized, I'm like, this is a cult. Like, there's like 35 people that go here. The people that run the church are mostly all family members. Um, and then I actually had a friend who was on the worship team. She was related to the pastor. It was her father-in-law came to me and told me she was struggling with same-sex attraction. She was married to the pastor's son. Then she told me a bunch of stuff going on in her marriage that was pretty abusive, and then the porn addiction, all that stuff, right? And so I went to the pastor and the father of the person that was the issue, and I was ostracized and called Jezebel and accused of touching God's anointed. And at that point, I was just like, what is happening? This pastor was like my biggest fan up until I was like, hey, you said I can't be a lesbian and I can't do this because it's sinful. I'm going to burn. So, like, your son is doing this and that and this. And now you have a daughter in law who's struggling with the same thing. Like, we need to deal with this in a loving way. And, I was like, it was my lesbian spirit that got on his daughter in law and made her lesbian. I only know this girl for a year, and so the abuse and manipulation, and they just turned on me like a pack of wolves, and we left. We went to another church, signs and wonders, all this stuff. Then it comes out there's, an affair going on with the head pastor and his wife, and that's been covered up for years. And it was all about money, it was all about ties. We end up leaving there, we go to another church, we try a home church, and it was just finally I threw my hands up and I told my husband at the time, this was probably 5 or 6 years ago, I'm like, I am done with the institution. So at that point, I was convinced that the real church was kind of like not in the institution. Then I went on that thing. Like, it's not the institution, it's not the 501c3 tithe people that are getting paid. It's the people that are on the streets that are not an institution, that are meeting in homes, breaking bread. So then we got into that kind of movement.
So you've been to a few different churches, bad experiences. You're not the only person. Is there anybody who hasn't had a bad experience in a church or in a couple churches? I've said it before, and I think this is one of the things that I will keep saying. The devil does not need to go to a mosque. The devil does not need to go to a Hindu temple. The devil does not need to go to any other religious gathering to try to muddy the waters, to make things seem disorderly, to cause people to say, what is this? Why am I here? The only place he has to do that, and the only place he targets to do that, is the church. Because the church is the only place where a soul can be saved from hell. You can go to a Hindu temple for all of your life, you will end up in hell. You can go to a mosque all the days of your life, you will end up in hell. You can go to wherever, I don't know when New Agers gather, or wherever they gather. You can go to their gatherings all the days of your life, you will end up in hell. The only place where a soul can be saved is the church. So that's the only place that Satan has to run amok. He sends agents to the churches. Listen to people's testimonies. They will tell you, yes, I used to be one of the devil's agents going to the churches. That's what I used to do. One of my missions was to make sure that the pastor's sons fall into fornication. They're confessing, and that's what they're saying. This is not a joke. This is not a joke. Your soul, the salvation of your soul, the price that was paid for your soul, all of this is not mythology, as you like to call it. The same devil who deceived a third of the heavenly hosts You think that he, on this earth, long before anybody could write any books, you really think he doesn't know how to deceive human souls?
Stuff. And then I was learning about the 70 AD thing in Israel and learning that the Bible is not accurate. So I already had all this going on prior to this epiphany, right? And at that moment, it was just like, what am I doing to myself? Like, what have I done to my life? Like, I am literally miserable. I don't want to live anymore. I'm so empty. I have no emotional connection. I'm numb. I'm callous. I'm bitter. I judge people. I can't even have an authentic relationship because of this Christian thing I have going on. I am so miserable and I'm giving myself trauma. And I was like, it hit me. I'm like, am I gay? You know what I mean? Like, what the heck? And so then I start panicking because I'm like, I told myself I'll never go back to that. I'm clean of that. But then it was like, as a few days went on, I sat with myself and I just was honest with myself and I dug deep. And it was like, when I finally was just like a light bulb went off, I'm gay and I've been gay forever. Like I didn't turn gay. And then I started remembering my, as a sixth grader, when my sexuality was first aroused, like most of it, we start having crushes, we start having attraction. We don't understand what's happening. We're kids, right? But I went back and I'm like, no, like I was gay then. I didn't understand it. I was, heteronormativity and compulsory heterosexuality, all that stuff. Like you stuff it, and well, society says I'm a woman, I'm supposed to get married to a man. So I just stuffed it. And the moment that I was far enough in my deconstruction where I did not believe in hell anymore, I did not. I didn't believe the Bible taught it. It was just like when I said it out loud to myself, like, I'm gay, like, it was literally like freedom. Like, I felt like I could breathe. Like, it's okay. Like, I'm not going to be burned forever. And then I remember I wrestled with it for a few weeks and I went and told my husband. I just was like, this is why it's not you. There's nothing wrong with you. It's nothing you've done wrong. Like, I cannot change this. And like, I don't want to live this way and you deserve more.
So you got yourself to believe that there is no hell. And that's something that somehow it kind of makes people feel that they're free. Now that you believe that there is no hell, not that there is no hell, you simply you simply brought yourself to that point where you believe there is no hell. Hell is going on. People are still falling into hell as you speak, as you breathe, as you go about your life. Whether or not you believe that hell is real, hell isn't waiting for you to believe that it's real. Hell isn't waiting for you to believe it into existence. Hell is still real. So you have to bring yourself to that point. You see, in order to carry on with your sin, you have to bring yourself to that point where I don't believe that. I can prove to you that there is no hell. Well, try to prove to the people who are there screaming. Prove to them that there is no hell. Don't try to talk about there is no hell while you're still up on this earth breathing and laughing and enjoying God's air and water. Try to tell the people who are screaming in hell that there is no hell. Tell them that there is no hell. And you can prove it. Prove to them that there is no hell. You see, there's a scripture that talks about when an evil spirit leaves and then decides to return to see if the house has been swept and if it's well, been upkept, and realizes, oh, this house is still available. Let me call some of my buddies with me, and we're going right back there. We're going right back there to inhabit that house because it's available. So once you've convinced yourself now that sin isn't wrong, there's nothing wrong with this. This is who I am. This is who I am. You see how the devil deceives people? See how he lies to people? This is who you are. There is no hell. Don't worry about it. This is who you are. There is no hell. Hell is waiting for every sinning soul right at the end of your days. That's exactly where hell is situated. If you think that you can simply say, well, I don't believe in hell, there is no hell, and then poof, hell disappears, In your mind, yes, but that's as far as it goes. In your mind, it disappears. But outside of that, hell doesn't disappear just because you decide to believe there is no hell.
Start even watching your channel until I would have already considered myself not a Christian, deconverted before I started watching your channel, before I started reading about all of that other stuff. And like before I did start seeing the mythology with the Trinity doctrine. When I started comparing like
Yep.
all the other gods that have multiple gods in one, and I'm like, that's how I got out of the Trinity, but I didn't deconvert my faith. I was just like, the Trinity doctrine is mythology. But then I started kind of seeing it like, the book of Genesis. Like I used to think that was literal. Like literally there was a flood. When you read it as mythology, it actually makes more sense. You know what I mean? It's just a book of fairy tales, basically. But I didn't start watching anybody's channel or reading things or debunking the Bible until I was already deconverted. I was already had to be honest with myself and say, I'm not a Christian. Then I started finding all that other stuff. I'm like, holy crap, like it's worse than I thought.
Hmm.
You know?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting you say that because I feel like in some ways I should have deconverted earlier. But mine it did take the mythology. That was the only thing that like pushed me. I was gonna say over the ledge. It pushed me off a cliff. But it was just like it just blindsided me. Like, where did this stuff come from? Holy smokes!
Yeah.
Like, why haven't I heard about all this and Enoch and all
Yeah.
that? But in some ways, it made the end easier because to me, by that point, it was crystal clear. It was like I was struggling with why doesn't God stop the genocides of the world? Why doesn't he,
Yes.
give why are 1,000 kids dying a day of starvation? I was dealing with these issues, but I was theologically putting them in a pocket of but God is just and will not judge the earth do right, and he's the king and he's the potter, we're the clay, he can do what he wants to.
Yep.
And I was excusing all these things, and the only thing that kind of
Yep.
shook me up enough was the mythology, which I'm glad I got.
Calling the Bible and all that has to do with God, mythology, because you're so brilliant. You did vigorous research and you validated that all of these other books are more accurate than the Holy Bible. They're more accurate because they were written so much longer. They're much longer than the Bible. People don't understand the extent to which deception. Do you know the father of lies? Do you know how he operates? Let me give you a hint of how he operates. He can get the whole wide world to believe that they need to go seek a cure for something that he created. And guess what? Most of these people who don't believe in God and say there is no God, how much research did you do before you went and got your fix? How much research did you do? Did you just believe that as well? Did you go check it out first? In the same way that you want to dig into the Bible and say this is not real. How many other things do you also check out to make sure it's true? So the father of lies can cause the whole wide world to believe that something is true. Meanwhile, it is a big fat lie. But you believe. You believed, right? In the same way now that you call God a liar, you tell Satan he's the one that's telling the truth. Because, hey, look at all these books that Satan wrote. For me, I believe these books over the Bible. I believe these books over the Bible. Yeah? Yeah? But let's see who's going to win this battle. Ask all the Satanists who are now Christians. Ask them if it's mythology. Ask them who saved them. Ask them who delivered their souls from the pits of hell. Ask them if it's mythology. They saw Satan face to face. They worked with him. And they also saw him scampering and running when Jesus Christ showed up on the scene. I've heard at least 2 former Satanists talk about that. It's how they would see Satan running, scampering off. And here you are calling the Bible mythology? Well, believe the father of lies. Believe him. Just know this. If you believe him all the way to your grave, all the way to your deathbed, you're going to be heading exactly where he is heading.
Is as I've deconverted, I've been scared to talk to people that I really love, not because I'm scared necessarily of their judgment. A little bit. It sucks being rejected and cast out, but it's like I have this desire to protect them because I know where their mind is. I know they're still indoctrinated. They're going to literally be scared and laying up at night worrying about me being tormented in this hell. That grieves me. It's like I don't even want to tell my friends that I love because it's like I just want to, it's like I don't want to make them not have faith or trying to get them away from the religion. It's more of like I see they're this in this prison in their mind, and it's like they have these fears are so real to them, and I sympathize and empathize with them, and it's like I don't even want to tell them because it's like it hurts my heart that they're literally have this real fear that someone they love, me, is going to be tormented for eternity, and they're trying to save me. They're doing all these prayers, maybe they're fasting for me, that I'm like I just want to save them from that. Like I'm okay, like I am okay, but it's like it's so hard, like because you can't make them not believe it. They have to get there, and it's like once you're free of it and you see the man behind the curtain, it's like I feel bad for them. I'm not mad at them for still being Christian or whatever, and I can be like when they do get mad and they judge me and tell me I'm going to burn in hell, it's like part of me is just like you're the one in prison, not me. Like you're the one in mental bondage, not me. You
Yeah.
know, supposedly you're set free because you're a Christian, like you are in a mind screw, like, and it sucks. It sucks seeing it from the other side, and like they're worrying about me when I'm not even worried, you know? It
A great way to put
sucks,
it.
but what do you do?
You do feel bad for them because you know that some of them will never escape and they will go to
I
their
know.
deathbed thinking this is real, and they will go to their deathbed effectively thinking that your life has basically been ruined and shipwrecked,
Yeah,
and they will never respect you. And it's like this
I know.
religion truly does, it ruins family.
Yes, who will believe it all the way to their deathbed because it's the truth. The real question to ask yourself is this: what will you be believing while you're on your deathbed? While you are on your deathbed, what will you be believing? That's the real question. That's the real question, because there are many people who, on their deathbed, people who work in the hospice and so on, they can tell you they've heard screams, people talking about get the fire off them. There's no fire in the room, but their soul is heading over to that realm. Their soul is heading over into eternity now. So they're seeing the fire. They're screaming in pain. So the real question should be, where will you be when you are on your deathbed? What would be the state of your soul if you spend your whole life calling the Most High God a psycho, calling his word mythology? Where will you be when it's your time to cross over and see him? What are you going to tell him when you see him? Hmm? What are you going to tell the Most High when you stand in his judgment? What are you going to say to him? You spent your life criticizing him and calling him a liar and telling Satan that he's the one with his mythology books that debunked the Bible. He's the one that told you the truth. There is hell to pay. Hell to pay. That's not just a figure of speech, because it's actually going to be literal for those who decide that they're so big and brave and bold that they can cross over into eternity and pay for their own sins. When provision was made for that, Jesus Christ shed his blood, but you want to pay for yourself. You cannot pay. That price is too high. Only his blood can pay. But if you refuse his blood, you will have to pay for that yourself. The reason why hell is eternal is because this mortal body, when it goes to the ground, what is left is a soul that is not mortal. People can tell you when you're dead, you're done, how much they want. Everyone will have the chance to see for themselves. This is not something where only some will know, a few people will find out. No, every single soul will know. That when we cross over from time, we step into that place called eternity, which is why hell could never come to an end. It will never come to an end. Jesus Christ came and he died to save us from that. But if you want to refuse that payment that was made for a debt that you cannot pay, well, it's your choice. He's not going to force you. He's not going to force anyone. I'm here warning souls. Don't listen to people who will take your soul to the pits. Listening to people that will take your souls to the pits of hell, can they bring you up and out of the pits? Jesus Christ can. These people cannot bring you up and out of the pits of hell. There are many souls. I heard someone say the level of regret in hell, it's like a vibration. It's so thick. The regret is so thick because people are recalling that they had the chance. They had the chance, but they squirmed at it. They scorned it. And now time is up. You cannot come back out of hell. You can't crawl out of hell and say you change your mind. You cannot crawl out of hell and decide, well, I changed my mind. God has had mercy on many people. We are living in a day and age where the technology, we can show videos all around the world. And this technology, we have seen many, many videos of people talking about hell. So God has not left us, where we are just guessing. He has told us in his word, which is reliable. But then even on top of that, in addition to his word, he's given us so many testimonies. For you to now come to the end of your life and still not believe, as the saying goes, you've made your bed and now you lie in it. Unfortunately, though, it's going to be a bed of worms, bed of maggots that do not die. He's told us that. All of this he said to us. He said they don't die, They don't die. There are people who talk about seeing the maggots in hell. Jesus Christ shed his blood so we don't have to experience that. But you want to turn up your nose and call his word mythology? Every knee shall bow and every tongue confess. Let's see if you could win Jesus Christ. Let's see if you are right and he is wrong. His word says every knee shall bow and every tongue will confess. So let's see if he is wrong and you are right. I'm warning souls, take your eternity seriously. Because when we leave here, we cannot come back to do it over. You have one chance, and it's the chance that you have while you're breathing, while you're living and breathing in this physical body. He said, I've laid before you life and death, and he's urged us to choose life. And I am also urging you to choose life. Thank you for being here. Until next time.